Hello, and we'd like to welcome Sarah McNichol to the Women Who Create podcast. Sarah is a work-life coach, and you spent many years running your own businesses, often chasing external goals and driving yourself to be more, do more, and work harder without ever feeling truly satisfied. Yes. That was until 5 years ago when 3 of Sarah's dear friends died in their prime. And that kind of led you to reassess what was happening. And Sarah realised that life is happening here and now and not something in the future when all tasks are ticked off the to-do list. Sarah's decided to enjoy the present more and live fully with her purpose on a day-to-day basis. She's reviewed her priorities and changed the way she lives and worked. Sarah now coaches smart, hard-working professionals in their 40s and 50s, take stock, define their now version of success, and create the next rewarding and rich phase of their life.
Indeed.
That's a rich intro. Welcome, Sarah.
Yeah. And so today we are talking about fear.
Yes. So yeah, that's the topic that we've decided to discuss. So do you want to start us off on the fear road?
I can link it to that intro.
Yeah.
Because the word that comes up for me when I think about how I used to function and how many people function is driven, and it's driven by fear. So we kind of do what we do in order to avoid, not generally, failing. It's fear of failure or fear of not being good enough, fear of not achieving enough. And it's a very uncomfortable, often, very, very productive, often, way of being. Yeah. Like, you achieve a lot of stuff, but
you're running from something at full pelt all the time.
Or running towards something, but it's the drivenness that relates to the fear, and that is not a very enjoyable experience.
Do you think that most people's fears are the same? Because for me, my fear is that I'll end up destitute, homeless in a cardboard box with none of my family loving me anymore, poor, and then maybe I'll die. Like all my fear just ends up with, and then I die. Is that the same for most people, or do people's fears change depending on
that bottom line, and then I'll die?
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Some of us have a different variety. It may not be the cardboard box, the on the streets, the homeless.
No.
It might be a different thing.
No, it's not, but we'll get to that.
Okay, lovely.
We will compare fears, perhaps.
Yeah.
That might be really interesting.
But what I know, to kind of answer your question, and I gave up counting after 1,000 people who I've worked with and heard their fears, and I have not met one individual, despite how amazingly competent, capable, resourceful, and often cool, calm and collected they look on the outside, who isn't dealing with fear and experiencing some kind of fear.
Yeah.
So we do all have.
So it's part of the human condition, isn't it, really? And maybe part of that is being able to recognise it and then move around it in a way, or circumnavigate the fear, because it feels like it's always going to be there.
Totally.
And I guess also, if the bottom line is also always, and then we die anyway. Yeah. So I guess it's working back from that and maybe finding, like you say, some ways to navigate our very personal associations with fear, or even highlighting them, because perhaps we don't know that the driver is fear. I guess when people come to you, do they know, or is that something that you as a coach go, right, I can see that you're in fear? You might not be able to know that you're responding to certain things because it's fear. I guess a lot of people don't know.
That's a really good question, Amy, because a lot of the time it's completely automatic. It's what our brain does to keep us safe. And we're not, it's at a subconscious level. We're not conscious that, hang on, what's going on? I'm feeling fearful. invariably, or not invariably, often we're just kind of responding or reacting to the fear. We're believing it. We're not recognising it. It's a mechanism, for what it is.
And do you find that people come to you with physical manifestations of fear as well as kind of psychological to do with their work? I mean, obviously that's not really your remit. I guess that's more of a medical. I mean, because I've read and seen things about people who are in fear, but it's got so far that it's, you know.
I suppose that might be related to the burnout that we were talking about on the last episode, is that if you let that drive you to the point of not being able to actually cope because you're just being driven by fear, then you just end up getting burnt out and, I don't know, having tense shoulders and headaches. And
totally. And what the way that I sort of think about physicality, physical manifestations of fear, is noticing what's going on in your body is a really good way of identifying that you are in fear. Because usually, and I'm not talking about kind of extreme anxiety here, but usually when we feel fear in the normal run of things, our bodies will react in some way. So it might be a fast beating heart, or you might feel sort of tense in your chest, or your breath might kind of be up here rather than down here. So you can use those physical signals to help you notice that you're feeling fearful. And just, I was reminded with your previous question, one of the clients that I was working with recently, who we've been doing a lot of exploring the things that her mind tells her as she's going about doing what she's doing and making the changes that she's making. Now aware of the things that I'm thinking that I have obviously been thinking all the way along, but I never noticed them, I never recognised them. And what we're doing in our process, that was a few sessions ago, we're moving forwards now. And she's learned to kind of notice the fear and tell the truth. So not operate out of fear.
So it's like turning a light on it really and recognising it.
Totally.
And that's the only point you can deal with it. If you don't know that it's happening and you can't identify it, then how can you kind of move forward in a way? So is that the first step to dealing with fear? It's being able to pinpoint
it is to turn the light on it and reveal it. And actually when you do that, it takes a lot of the power out of it.
Yes, absolutely. Calling it by its name.
And just thinking about the link with burnout, I myself got burnt out. I didn't realise that that's what it was until afterwards. It was totally related to always reaching for better, more, kind of, really pushing myself. And it required a lot of looking at the fears that were driving that behaviour, and a great deal of refuting them and practicing refuting them on a regular basis, because they had been so familiar and part of my makeup, as they are with
I really
all of
recognise
us.
that. Yeah, and stuff that so I've started doing some coaching with Debbie, and we had a big conversation when we were talking about some new products that I'm developing, and my thing that I have about fear is fear of people thinking that I'm not qualified enough to be able to offer the things, and that always comes up for me. And it's something that I'm trying, and with help of previous coaches and with Debbie, it's getting there. But it sometimes it does take a huge roll of paper, some coloured pens, and writing down
all the
your
things
10 years of experience to work that out. And I really needed that, because I'm a kind of person that my memory can be really dodgy. So if sometimes I need a physical reminder that no, wait
you
a
are
minute,
good. You do know your
you
stuff.
do that, and that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So having a cue almost to bring you back out of that fear.
Yes.
I think part of that is
It's
comparison as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Because then you're comparing yourself to other people and you're going, well, I can't be as smart as them and I can't be as good as them because look how shiny they are. And it's not until you reflect on all your amazing achievements that you're like, oh, maybe actually I know more than them. Like maybe I'm further along the line, but somehow I'm holding myself back because I don't believe myself. I feel like I need to do more. I've got to prove myself before I can get to that point.
Yeah.
We're often not that kind to ourselves, are we?
We're often not, and we view other people from the outside.
Yeah.
We don't hear all the crap that's going on in their
No,
head.
exactly.
So, like us, they look fab
Yeah,
on
and
the
shiny and
outside. We
amazing.
can hear our own nonsense
absolutely.
going on
Yeah.
inside, but we can't hear that.
And social media is such a thing for that because obviously most people only post up the best stuff,
Yeah.
Well,
their
exactly.
expertise.
Yeah.
You know, when they look at their shiny best, they do a video. When they're writing their blog post, they've spent hours thinking about the content that they're writing.
Yeah.
And you're there going, oh my God, I don't. But if you, if you knew the journey that it took them to get where they are, you would kind of give yourself a bit of a break, I think.
Yes,
So.
yeah. And just to come back to what you were saying about not trusting your value,
Yes.
that's one of the key things that I do with
Yes.
my clients,
Yes.
which is about helping them really own what's true about them, own their expertise, own the qualities and the sort of the characteristics they have, the things that they do, because I call it lizard brain, our sort of fear-based brain spends most of its time looking for the ways that we fall short.
Yes.
It doesn't habitually
Big us up.
or even not big us up. It doesn't go, yeah,
You're alright.
you're alright.
Yeah.
You're doing okay.
Yeah.
It's finding holes, isn't it? Like where
Yeah,
can you improve? Where can you
it's
improve?
totally
Where can you
finding
improve?
holes.
Yeah.
Totally. The neuroscience points to our kind of default brain mode is slightly negative. It's
Which keeps us
designed-
moving, doesn't it?
It keeps us moving, and it's designed to keep us safe.
Yeah.
So it's looking out for
Right.
danger.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't typically acknowledge our strengths and
No, which is
qualities.
crazy because when I'm doing something brilliant, I'm like, oh yeah, and sometimes you can really see it, and how quickly though something can just flip you back into that. It's really it's growth.
And habit is habit forming, isn't it?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
you know, you can, when you're on a particular journey, you can flip back quite quickly, but if you keep practicing the same effective ways of noticing, actually I'm good at this, and actually that worst case scenario that I pictured didn't happen and is likely not to happen.
And I think, sorry.
No, it's fine, because I was just thinking you use a really good technique in your coaching, which is to get people to write down their fears and identify them what they are, and then just simply go, is that true, is that false, or don't know.
Yes.
And it's such a simple technique, but something that we don't stop. We just believe all the things that is going through our head all the time. Yes, that's true. Yes, I am an idiot. Oh God, I can't drive. Oh, of course I'm going to crash into that tree. Do you know what I mean? Like just and then you crash into the tree. But if you actually go, well, can I drive? Is it true? Well, of course I can drive. I've been doing it for years. So it's just that almost resetting and taking that time to go, oh, that's a negative thought. Is it true? What do I know about that? And that's part of that habit forming, and I find that really effective to just stop and go, is it true? No, it's not, is it? Like,
no.
It generally isn't true as well. That's the thing. We tell ourselves all these kind of lies, and whether that's to protect ourselves or not because of this fight and flight thing, and really we're not in danger most of the time, are we? We're just chugging along, having a nice time, but our brain's like, boop, boop, boop. You know, it's queued up, isn't it?
We need to fit a filter, a more positive filter.
Yeah, and we can.
Yes.
We can cultivate a positive filter and sort of sift and sort on a more intuitive basis, rather, with practice. I was coaching Debbie yesterday.
We're all just coaching each other. It's brilliant. It's the circle of coaching. It's the circle of coaching. Make a song out of it for karaoke.
And what really made me delighted, and we've spoken about this, is one of the things that you shared you had come to by this time is feeling really comfortable and confident in a piece of work that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And roll back a few months ago, you were very uncertain about whether that was going to last, or whether you were offering, the right things, or and there you were. And this is a really good example of you can not just because it's with a lot of effort and application, but you can create a new default.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I know that this is going well and I'm,
in control,
and my worst case scenario of it stopping,
it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Isn't going to happen. Yeah.
Totally unlikely.
Because it's not nice, is it, working from a point of, at any point, all of this might come tumbling down.
Yeah.
It's going to crash and burn, and I'm going to end up in a cardboard box dead.
Yeah.
To actually go, oh, it's okay, it's working.
Still.
I bring value to the table. I get, I do really good work with my clients, but actually knowing that and hearing that and believing that is two different things, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Like listening to people giving you that feedback and taking it on board, rather than listening to people give you feedback and go, oh, it's just because you like me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or they're just saying nice things because they like me.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. I don't know why. What else? But it's actually believing the positive things that people say and just going, thank you.
Yes.
Rather than, oh no, that's a nice dress. Oh, well, I bought it in a charity shop and it's not really worth anything. And do you know, you find yourself doing that a lot. People give you a compliment and you kind of push it back.
Yeah.
Go, oh, well, it's not really a thing.
Yes. Which is why the value of coaching, thinking about when we're doing life, we're busy, we're reactive, we're instinctive, we're doing things quickly, we're distracted by a lot of other things. But when you're coaching or in some other way deciding to tackle fear, you actually get opportunity to really think through these behaviours and question them and kind of challenge them and take time. It's time consuming to and takes kind of energy and commitment to put new ways of thinking in place.
But I think the thing to think about is, do you want to carry on the way that you're doing things? Like, is it serving you? Is it working? Are you happy? If the end result of that is no, I'd like something to change, then it's only makes sense, doesn't it, to devote some time to something, to maybe work with a professional to work through things. I think, any business person worth their salt needs a coach of some kind to help them through something. And that might not necessarily be the same coach the whole of that journey.
No,
you pick up different coaches based on what you need at the time. But I think it's foolhardy to think that you can run a business or even be in life without some kind of input or space to speak and think and have, if you come to a coach for an hour and a half, that's an hour and a half that you just dedicated to working on yourself. What a wonderful thing. Where you can actually talk through all those issues.
You need a sounding board, don't you? Because there's so much stuff going on, like you say.
For somebody to go, that's not right.
That's,
Is that really how you want to think about yourself? Or, it's like a mirror, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And indeed, Martin Seligman, who's the father of positive psychology, I don't know whether you've heard of him, but he's all about, he shifted psychology from remedial, from making problems better, to evolutionary and sort of proactively building. And so it may not even be that we benefit from avoiding the pitfalls of not having a coach or learning, developing. but indeed we can be kind of enjoy life more, feel more confident, be more creative, be more resourceful when we do invest in support of some sort. It's not just about fixing problems.
So it's not just moving away from something, it's a positive moving towards
a
life that you want to live, that you kind of deserve, I suppose.
Coming back to some stuff that we've been talking about social media recently, I find that for me that's quite a fear trigger, and more recently I've been taking less time on social media, and I notice that the fear linked with the anxiety, and I think often it's, like you say, the comparison thing, and often a fear of missing out.
Yeah. Well, if you're not on social media, then something will happen that you won't see.
But there's all these things in life that other people are doing.
That comparison thing again, and so other than working through it, I've realised that actually shutting those things down, those external kind of, it's so much information hitting you, isn't it, constantly.
It's just a noise box.
It is, and it's not healthy, and I think that is a huge thing to do with fear, is people are seeing what everybody else is doing and thinking, oh, why haven't I got X, Y and Z? But until you actually, like you say, take that time to work on yourself, to actually work out what it is that you personally want, not what everybody else, the wider we has.
I think part of that is having like an anchor. So when I work with people, having them kind of develop their voice on social media, it's about really making a concrete version of what they are and what they're about and who their customers are and what they're on the planet to do, so that they've got this really solid anchor point, so that they know what they stand for, so that you feel less buffeted by what everybody else is doing. Because if you're following trends all the time and chasing the tail, you'll never quite get there. Because as soon as you got there, something else will be the fashion. And actually, if you can sit in your point or your zone of genius or whatever they call it and just sit there, then it will come back round to you anyway.
Absolutely.
And people will have a better, more concrete understanding of who you are and what you offer, and they'll learn to trust you. Whereas if you're constantly looking at other people and adapting what you're doing, because look what they're doing, oh my god, look what they're doing, it becomes really disjointed and you just become part of the noise as well. And I think it's feeling confident in your messaging and what you're doing, so you've got that really concrete kind of beginning point, and then you can build and expand on that. And I think that's kind of the core really of a business as well, isn't it?
I'm reminded, one of the things that I help people do is define their version of success now. And it's very much based on values and who I am, what am I about, what's important to me. And one of the aspects of social media is everybody else's version of success is very visible, and it's so easy to get sucked along in the sort of slipstream of
the 7-figure salary,
whatever it might be. But when you are anchored in your own version of success, when you know what success looks and feels like to you, then you've got much more control about what you engage in or don't engage in, what you buy into or don't buy into, and that is really, it's the same as what you're talking about, Debbie, I think, isn't it?
Sure. I think I'm sort of looking at this beginning point, but I like what you're doing, which is looking ahead and thinking, well, where do you want to get to? And then where does that line stop almost? Because one thing that I've noticed and gone through recently is that every time I hit my monthly salary target, I just double it. But it's got insane now, so you can't just keep doubling it all the time, and that drive makes you stressed and fearful, and you're constantly like, am I going to make it, am I going to make it, am I going to make it, rather than going, well, did I mean to earn that much, am I comfortable with this much, am I okay, yes I am, the striving, the pushing, the striving, the fear, I need to be successful with them, look what they're doing over there, is really unhealthy.
Absolutely.
And stopping and catching yourself, giving yourself space to go, actually, is this really what I wanted? Does this feel comfortable? Does this feel good?
And at what expense are you driving and striving? Like, you know, if you are working so hard that you don't get to see your family and friends, and you're always like, I'm really busy, I haven't got time to talk to you, then what's
the point?
What's the point of that life anyway?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what it all boils down to, really. It's like the flip side of fear is enjoyment, I think.
Yeah.
And figuring out what we enjoy and how to have more of that, how to achieve that. That's like an antidote for fear.
Yeah.
And when we ask ourselves very sort of personally, what are the things that I enjoy for me on a really everyday basis? It's things like going for a walk by the river, just part of my day that I enjoy, and it's very different to what I used to do, charging around, achieving this, that and the other. It's very, very
stopping
enjoyable.
and smelling the roses on this, isn't it?
It is.
One thing I wanted to ask is, do you think that we need to get rid of fear completely, or is that useful at some point? Because I know that there would be some people that would think, but fear is really useful to me and it keeps me driven and I like that and I need that push. So how do you, where's the balance between fear running you and you running fear, I suppose?
That's a fear. If I don't have fear, I won't achieve anything.
Oh my god!
And I said this morning, in anticipation of this chat, fear plus oxygen equals excitement.
Yes. Which I loved.
You know, fear is part of the kind of adrenaline and the excitement and the sort of...
So it's being able to breathe.
It's
breathing, it's
remembering to breathe. Yeah. And I guess we're always going to be, while we're growing and learning and developing, and I count myself in this totally, especially this year while I'm developing a new venture. We're out of our comfort zone to some extent. You know, when you're stretching in whatever way, when you're trying to create something that you haven't created before, you're out of your comfort zone. There's always going to be an element of fear with that. And it's necessary. They can't not be. It's necessary. So absolutely, I'm not about eradicating fear, apart from that it's impossible, but about learning to manage fear and use it actually as a kind of source of healthy motivation sometimes. But also do strategizing and important decision making right out of fear, so that the kind of the planning, the vision, the where I'm going is all considered without fear being part of the equation. And then, you know, once you've got your clarity about that, you can cope with a bit of scary. Will it work? Won't it?
And actually, I read a book, Playing Big, Tara Moore. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
And she talks about different types of fear, and I think it's I think it was a Jewish saying of some kind, because that's her background, and the different kinds of fear are, from her perspective, which really rang true with me. And I was listening to it on my audiobook walking somewhere one day, and I thought, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And she said there's pahad and yara, and pahad is like the fear, the bad kind of fear, the fear of I'm going to die and end up in a cardboard box. And then yara is that fear, and like you said, it's fed by excitement, so by possibilities. It means something to you, and that's not the best way that she obviously described it really well. But that I'll find that, because that really spoke to me. And actually, at that time when I was deciding to close down my business and dare to venture into pastures new, I thought, gosh, I've been held by this type of fear, but actually tapping into that fear, the more helpful, productive fear, yes, I'll find that was.
And that's a really good example of how it's useful to know about fear, isn't it? So that, you know, you can understand it, understand how you behave when you're feeling fearful, and do something about it if you choose to. Yeah,
and grow within it. I think that was the thing that it was
suggesting.
Yeah.
Well, we've come to the end of our time. That was a really good discussion on fear. If you were going to kind of leave people with one thing about fear that they could kind of ponder on, or what would be the one thing that you'd want people to have taken away from listening today?
That fear is completely normal, and all of us capable, resourceful, ambitious, you know, really splendid and magnificent men and women feel fear. Don't think that it's just you feeling fear. It's completely normal, and you can manage it and do something about it.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you.
You're very welcome.